Welcome to WitchLab Wednesday Live. I'm your host, Tiffany Boggins, and today is March 15th, 2023. Thank you for joining me. Today on the show, we're going to be speaking with Matthew Ash McKernan, who wrote this wonderful book, Weirdcraft, Healing Self and Nature Through the Mysteries of the Fates. So we're going to have him on in just a little bit. Yay. Hey, guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. Let's see. Let's see if anybody's here just yet. Yep, I see you. I see you, people. Say hi. Okay, so today, let's see. Today's, like I said, March 15th, the Ides of March, right? It's so there's some gross stuff going on, right? Like, and it's funny because Ides of March is a dangerous time. Something I want to talk about, because I try to talk about stuff that's topical to us, people who enjoy freedom and equality. This new Tennessee thing, right? The new Tennessee law that's passed, the anti-drag and anti-trans stuff that's going on there. It's terrifying. Hey, Peggy. Hey, Susie. Hey, Doug. It's good to see you guys. And I know how all of you feel about this. So yeah, I wanted to start off by talking about the Ides of March because it is this really, interesting story of Julius Caesar. And he actually had a soothsayer who actually read entrails to see the future, which I think is amazing that they could even pinpoint a date for that, the Ides of March, which I know is technically like the middle of March, like the 13th, whatever, but that's still pretty accurate for a soothsayer who's reading some entrails. But yeah, so he was told, that he was going to meet his end when he went to the Senate, and he didn't care. He was like, nope, it's fine, we're all good. So he goes anyway, and on the day of, he goes and he says, well, it's the Ides, nothing's happening. And the prophet says, Caesar, it's here, but it's not gone. So it's still on its way. So yeah, the Ides of March is, as we all know, when Caesar got stabbed by all of his buddies in Senate. Hey, Christina, thanks for joining us. And that does really segue into the backstabbing jerks who are in power now, right? The terrifying hold they have over things. They took away abortion rights, and now they're going straight for what they said they would do, right? They actually outlined this exactly. They weren't hiding it at all. But yeah, so horrible backstabbing assholes in government. Did you know the ACLU is currently tracking 413 anti-LGBTQ bills in the U.S. right now? Yeah, so, and again, Tennessee just passed this one. This is like details from it. This comes from an NPR article that was published on March 6th. Adult cabaret performances in public or in the presence of children, it restricts them and bans them from occurring within 1,000 feet of schools, public parks, or places of worship. And then also passed alongside separate legislation that bans transgender minors in Tennessee from receiving gender-affirming care, like puberty blockers, hormone, and surgery. I know that this is a hot topic, like where people are like, oh, but you shouldn't give them to kids. Certain kids, I think, is really beneficial to them. But there's ways of determining that, and that's a whole other topic. But, yeah, exactly, James. Fuck them. Fuck them. Hey, Betty. Hey, Peggy. Yeah. Hey, James. But yeah, fuck them. I think that they continue to put the attention on the wrong things. That well, drag shows cause shootings. It's like saying women cause rape, assholes. Anyway, that's how that goes. And let's not forget how many anti-gay agenda pushing lawmakers get exposed in very interesting gay sex scandals. Right? Hello, Randy McNally, the guy who's been, going after gay rights and yet at the same time hitting on gay, transgender, not children, but much younger than him people. Yeah, so it's gotten to the point where the more they scream anti-LGBTQ, the more I hear, I'm so sad I can't be open with who I am and happy. And I wish they could wake up and feel the joy of experiencing the world as their genuine selves, instead of making it even more terrifying to be out, which sort of seals their own fates even more, making their fears about how scary it is to be out and gay into very real dangers. So that's my 2 cents on that stupid bullshit that's going on right now. And if you're curious, there's actually an article that I found. It's 17 gay scandals that rocked American politics. So that's a thing. It's put out by The Advocate. It's on the same page as 24 tips for giving amazing head. So there's a lot of information there. So yeah, and by the way, with the new event space that we have, if anybody wants to talk to me about booking a drag show or any pro LGBTQ or basically anything, email me, witchlabinfo@gmail.com. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. James, as a parent of a trans child, I'm going to assume you mean disgusts me. It disgusts me too. I guess it also disgusts you in a way too, because you have definitely some skin in the game because you care about somebody who could be hurt by these things. I think everyone listening to this show is probably in that same boat, if not directly the target themselves. Betty with you on all this. Thank you, Betty. And Susie, it is a terrible and disturbing trend. Yeah, Betty, exactly. So many of us have loved ones, or we ourselves, or the world that I live in is full of lots of wonderful people from all different, genders and sexualities and everything, because it should be. America KK is a terrifying place nowadays. Yes, it is, Jean. Also, hi. It's good to see you. Christina says, my 20-year-old is gay and non-binary. I definitely fear for them. I know. That's the thing. The more this goes on, the more terrifying it is for the whole community. Doug says, 2 good friends with mine are trans, and I support their life choices. Yeah. And we should, Yeah. And Jason says, falling back into the dark ages. It definitely feels like that. It definitely does. Okay. All right. I just needed to vent about it because it makes me so damn mad. Let's get into events coming up, shall we? Let's see. Right now, going on in the show, in the shop, we have an art show up that is Peggy Minton, Art, Magic, and One Black Cat. That is fantastic. Please stop by and see it. Matter of fact, as soon as you walk in the door, you can't help but see it. It is so sparkly and beautiful. And there she is, by the way. Peggy Minton, everybody. Oh, Peggy Minton, everybody. Okay. Real quick, upcoming stuff. Like I said, currently her show is up right now. And you're welcome. And Circle the Dark Mother will be having their monthly discussion, as always, on the first Sunday of the upcoming month. I do not know what their topic is, but if we see Mark come on, we can ask him. He's the one who runs it. So if anybody sees Mark Williams popping around in the chat, we'll talk to him. Cultum Librorum, the WitchLab book club, meets on the last Sunday of the month. And this month, they're doing Philosophy of Dark Paganism by Frater Tenebris. And April will be Magia. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. By Margit Toth. Again, or Toth. I don't know if I'm saying that right either. Jean, help me out here. Jean is who just commented, is the person who leads that wonderful group. And if you want to join, it is free. It is wonderful. Let me give you a little link here just in case you want to get to it later. And when you do go to join, just make sure you answer the questions so we know that you're a real person, and then you can be part of it. And sometimes it's been known to happen that the authors will even stop by to talk with you and give their 2 cents. Coming in April, Tarot Tea Party, April 13th, we'll be doing a deep dive into the Strength card, one of my favorite cards, led by the one and only Libby Bruce of Cat and Crow. And yes, this is the first time I'm announcing on the show that there's still tickets available for this month, or next month, so the next one coming up. So don't hesitate. Let's see. April 22nd and 23rd. Okay. Jean says that Magia, if I'm saying it, this book isn't out yet, so they need to go back and have another poll put up. So if you join now, you could have some say in the April book. So So get in there and put your 2 cents in. It could be Weirdcraft. It could be. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So April 22nd and 23rd, WitchLab will be at the Oddities and Curiosities Expo here in Columbus, which we are very excited about. We love that show. It's one of our favorites of the year. Come out and see us there. And then we're actually having an after party in the new event space that I know you guys keep hearing me talk about, which it is shaping up nicely. Walls got painted today. It's beautiful. But yes, we're doing a show, an after party for the Oddities show. It'll be, so the event space is right next door to WitchLab. So it's 1187 West Broad. And it is going to be, it's actually being put on by Art Clash, which is Ohio's own wrestling league of artists, which is pretty amazing. They'll be performing a very special Oddities version of Art Clash. And we are featuring the band Silent Home, which they are fantastic and fun. And it's going to be an amazing event. So come out, hang out with us. It's going to be great. Yeah, that is all that I have to say so far. So let's get our guest out, shall we? He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's an ecotherapist. He is a weird worker. He's a bard. He is a walker of worlds and the author of this amazing book. Let me get it out there again. Weirdcraft, Healing Self and Nature Through the Mysteries of the Fates. Please allow me to introduce Matthew Ash McKernan. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're happy to have you. I'm going to turn my volume up just a little bit because even though I'm yelling.
Can you hear me?
There we go. It was turned way down. So hopefully I didn't mess with my volume at all. But hello, welcome.
Hi, thanks.
So I haven't seen you in a while. The first time and only time we've met so far was when you came into the shop when you were on your book tour here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
You went to the Buckland and you went to our wonderful magical druid here in Columbus.
Yep. Yeah, had a great time. It was awesome to be in your shop too, because that was the first time I'd ever been in there. And yeah, I have something I got there right next to me that I can't show you, but it's like a cool little tapestry.
Very cool.
Yeah. But,
we loved you visiting. Okay, so I have some rapid fire questions to let us get to know each other.
I'm ready.
Okay. Where are you from?
Ohio.
So you're originally from Ohio, but you live in California now, yeah?
I live in Maine now.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. So were you living in California when you wrote the book?
Yeah. Yeah. I was living in California for 14 years.
Okay.
Before that, I lived in Ohio for, I guess, almost 26 years.
Which part of Ohio?
In Ashland. I grew up in Ashland. And then I moved to Cleveland for a bit. But I was in Columbus for about, I think, 7 years or so.
So what took you to California then?
Music.
Music?
Yeah, I was playing in a band in Columbus called Pretty Weapons, the Pretty Weapons. And we were doing pretty well. It was a psych rock band. And I was curious about the San Francisco scene because, we were playing psychedelic rock, and that's kind of, it's a place for that. And we moved out to California together, and my bandmates, they had different reasons, but they didn't want to stay, and I stayed. And so, eventually I ended up going to grad school. I still play music, but I went to grad school for counseling psychology while I was out there, and went through that whole process, and then moved to Maine in about two years ago. So
okay. So you like Maine?
Yeah, it's very different, than California, than the Bay Area.
What took you all the way over there?
Well, I have family that's here.
Okay.
And so, to connect with family or reconnect with family, and also a little bit to kind of heal from being in the Bay, because the Bay Area is a wonderful, magical place that is also very intense. It's a wild place. And I was there for a long time, and just healing energetically, spiritually, physically, all of the dimensions and domains. Um, and I guess I was called to this special place where I'm at now. It's a really cool little island. It's where Arcadia National Park is, actually. So it's
Wow.
really beautiful. It's mountains and forests and lakes and rivers and ocean and coastline. It's a mythical place. It's just a
It sounds fantastic. My dogs like to talk sometimes.
yeah.
At some point, I might have to let them out of the room because sometimes they try to get louder than you. It's like they're trying to compete with you. So you just ignore them. It sounds fantastic, and I mean, if you can. So one of my rapid fire questions is vacation preferences, snow or tropical, and because you went from living in sort of well, I don't know where in California you were, but
Yeah.
a lot of California can be pretty warm, to Maine, which is the opposite of very warm.
Yeah. It's a really good question. Right now, my answer is tropical because the
Because you're in
winter,
Maine in March.
yeah, it's a really long winter here. Like winter in Ohio it's a considerable winter there, but Maine it's long and it drags on. It starts really slowly and it just kind of goes and slow fade. So got some months left and
That alone would be difficult for me because I find that the Ohio winter is difficult. This time right now, the middle of March, the Ides of March, is seriously so difficult. Like I'm sure it's colder where you are, but we are going through a 3-day cold snap where it's been in the 20s. And because this is sort of within a month of the end of ours, as you know, here that it'll end soon. Man, I just want it to end. I just want it to be over. And every day it's like, can we get a little sun? Can it get up to 50? That would be sweet. Which
yeah.
day it did. But
Yeah.
man, that like waking up in the morning and it's like 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
there were definitely a couple months here where it's like waking up and it's 10 degrees and dark but it's one of those places where it's like it's such a beautiful winter. In Ohio, at least in the Columbus area, it's a pretty gray, slushy winter.
It is. It's sort of like mud snow.
Yeah, yeah. But here it's like a winter wonderland, so it is a great place to vacation in the winter, even though not many people do. It's definitely a summer spot. Like there's a lot of people that come for they come here for the summer and then they go south for the winter. So it's one of those spots, but it's also a very magical place too, in the sense that there are vortexes here. It's kind of like a Sedona like place, but in the Northeast. So there's a lot of opportunity for communing with nature and with nature spirits and with a lot. Like I said, it's a mythical place, so there's a lot here to commune with. And
it sounds incredible, all the things that you listed. And you said Arcadia State Park, is that what it's called?
Acadia.
Yeah,
Acadia National Park.
National Park.
I don't know if this is true, but it may be one of the first, if not the first, national park that was made. But I'm not 100% sure on
Like
that.
the first official one.
Yeah,
It got called a national park.
Yeah, and it's Wabanaki land. That's the native people that were here, and I think that translates to something like the people of the dawn land, which I can see that. It's the place where the sun hits the country first,
right?
And it's a very sacred place.
That's beautiful. So my next question is, what kind of activities do you enjoy, and especially like being there? Like, what is it that you love to do there?
Well, also depends on the season, but
sure.
I really love to swim.
Yes.
There's just the really, really clean water ponds and lakes here that, I mean, you can open your eyes and see a good 20 feet, under the water.
Wow.
And they're a little chilly, but it's a good chilly. It's a very invigorating, cool. Even in the summer, you can stay in a while. And yeah, so swimming. I have access to a kayak where I'm at, and so that's pretty special to go out on the lake, especially at night when it's really still, and there's just the Milky Way is reflected, on the lake and above you, and it's hard to describe the magic of that.
It sounds incredible. I love kayaking. It's one of the things that my boyfriend and I try to find time to do, and it's wonderful, especially when you find those still spots. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
We like to go back in tributaries and stuff, just like find like the places that are like where nobody else has touched for a long time.
Yep, because there are a lot of people that come here in the summer. It's a tourist destination, but there are quiet spots even in the summer. So, yeah, y'all should come.
I would love that. I've never been to Maine, but like I said, I do think that I've heard that the summers are gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
One of my ex partners from a long time ago, his parents actually, they retired and moved to Maine and opened an art gallery just to live out the rest of their lives there doing that because it was so peaceful and beautiful. And I think it's called the Rose Art Gallery, but fantastic. I think it's a place that people, when they get to do what they want, it's one of the places people choose.
Yep. And I think with time, with changes in the world, Maine is gonna blow up. Kind of, it's already starting to a little bit. It's all relative, right? But there's it is desirable, and with climate change and all that, it makes sense. It's it's a spot where a lot of people are going to come, and a lot of people already are. But
how do you feel about that? Lots of people come in there.
It makes sense, and I don't know. I don't feel any possession over Maine at this point. Maybe because I haven't been here long enough, or and also because it does get lonely. That's one of the drawbacks of being on an island in the northeast, where it's small towns around here, and community is pretty few and far between. Like there is community, but you have to, you're traveling like an hour to 3 hours to meet up with, to do ritual with other pagans. And yeah, I really love dance, like dancing, and there aren't many opportunities for dance here, but that's changing. Like that's a more recent, very welcome change, is that there are some dances showing up, like ecstatic dance and
nice.
And contact improv and 5 rhythms, and that kind of stuff, like improvised dance. I love it.
Sometimes we have to start the things that we want to see, and that's something because when you are sort of an island as a person out there, you kind of have to like put out the beacon, right? Rent a space, get some music, bring them together.
Yeah. Reminds me, last winter I was hanging out in my place, and it was like, I don't know, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and it's been dark since like 3:30, and I hear just really quietly like I'm like, that's something I don't hear too often. Like, what's that? And I put on my coat, on my winter gear, and just headed out into the night and walked through the woods for a while. I just followed the noise until eventually I get to a lake, right? This lake that's nearby, and it's all frozen over, and it's thick ice, 18 inches thick. And I see out on the ice like this little tent with lasers shooting out of it, and there's this little this this guy, he set up a rave, didn't tell anybody, just set up, 6 speakers, tent, lasers, and it was just him and me. And we just danced. And, some other people would kind of meander in and out over the night, but for the most part, it was just, and he did it a few other times last winter. And he's out of town right now, but.
So does he tell you now, or you just listen for the music and then you head on out?
Yeah, he'll tell me, but maybe he won't,
I love that that's how you found him. That is fantastic. I just heard the music and I put on my coat and I just went walking.
Yep.
And you found a tent with lasers.
Yeah. Yep. On the ice, out on the middle of the ice, under the stars, mountains on both sides. It's like, for real? I mean, I could just see so many people loving that,
Yes.
and really enjoying that kind of a winter experience where you're outside, staying warm by dancing and being with people, like drinking mulled wine or tea or something. And it's like, there's a coziness to it. So,
absolutely.
yeah. More and more people are doing it. I guess that's where I was going with that, is that there are people that are just like, there's a person around the corner who just started to do dances in her house, and they're small, but yeah, there's, the web is growing, or it's, or there's more connections being made in the web. So,
Sprite Spots, right? Like bright spots on the web are popping up, right?
Yeah.
Girls, what are you doing here? Can you hear them? They're all like,
yeah. No, they're having fun. They're having their dance party over there.
They are. Ever since you started talking, they're like, we can do that. You guys are crazy. They're getting all antsy, but that's okay. We love that. It's good energy. Okay. All right. Back to the silly questions. What's your favorite color?
Blue. Yeah,
excellent.
like sky blue.
Sky blue. I was gonna say, because everybody likes blue, likes a specific kind of blue.
Yeah.
Sky blue. Beautiful. What's your favorite board game?
Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons isn't really a board game, but it kind of is. You can use a board in it. So
I mean, if that's your game, that's your game. That's a sweet game.
Yeah, that's my game.
A game where you get to, create and live out and be like, not only create your character, but like literally decide what your character is going to do. Yeah. I had the hardest time the first few times I played, which were like shortly after high school. I could not wrap my brain around the absolute freedom where they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, what are my options? What am I picking from? No. What do you want to do? And you're like, wait, I could do anything? They're like, yeah, what do you, yes. Like, what do you have? What did you bring? What powers do you have? And I'm like, well, I have this rope and I guess I could, and you just start coming up with things. And it's that sort of like, that explosion of like, oh, wow. It was fantastic and intimidating at the same time, because then you're afraid you're not going to be good enough at it. But yeah, it's edgy. It's one of those edgy games. It's fun though. I've recently, not recently, but at my grad school, I met someone who was doing D&D groups as like therapy groups, and and I've even brought it into sessions here and there, mostly with clients who do D&D, who have used like the building a character as a form of like therapy, where they imagine who they want to be, and like, this is who I want to be. And then they play it out and they act it out. They bring it into the world. They bring this kind of, this better version or higher self or whatever, or more whole self into the world through this game. And notice the anxiety that comes up as, because it's not always easy to do that. It's like, it makes me nervous to like be seen and to speak my truth and to embody this character and to make these decisions about a character that's going to represent you. I feel like there's a lot of times where I get stuck in the character development. There's literally been times where I've started a new video game and they're like, choose a name. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. I'll be back. I'm not going to go through this whole game with a name I don't like. I need to sit and think about this.
Yeah.
but I think that's a great answer. I think that D&D is a great answer. I was watching, I don't know if you've ever watched Harmontown, like the documentary that he did about his podcast. Dan Harmon, who was the creator of Community and part of Rick and Morty, but he did a show. He literally did like, God, it was like something like 50 shows in like 60 nights, live podcast in front of an audience. And in one of those, there was a guy who came to see him who felt that he just needed to come to see him. He went there. It turned out that he's a professional dungeon master. And he met Dan Harmon on stage and they clicked. And from then on, he was their show dungeon master. He became part of the travel and they would have like sessions on stage every night. Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
I know, because and I think that, which we're going to get into in just a minute, fate, right? And being where you should be is something to be said there. Okay, so this next question, I'm totally stealing from Gordon White and Rune Soup, but I feel like I have to say it because, again, we're talking about weirdness on the show. We're going to be delving into this in a minute. Were you a weird kid?
Yes. Yeah. I think, I still am. Very much.
Fantastic answer.
And probably always will be, but I was like definitely a weird kid, but a quiet weird kid. I definitely learned, for better or worse, growing up in the town I grew up, that being weird was not a good thing, right? But so I got good at hiding it or only expressing it with select people. And but when got into like alternative music and like junior high and stuff like that, and was in a punk band in high school and skateboarder, that kind of stuff is like so popular now,
right?
But yeah, back then we may have been the first punk band in that town, like ever.
In Ashland?
In Ashland, yeah. It's 25,000 people. It's like white, Christian, conservative. I mean, sure, you can imagine you live in Ohio, so.
I do. I'm lucky to live in the oasis that is Columbus. It's like this tiny blue dot in a sea of red. There's some more blue dots, but that's so I do get it. So somebody actually had asked something about your band earlier. Jason said, weren't ex-members of Thou in Pretty Weapons?
Yeah, the guitarist Matt.
There you go. So music buffs, people who recognize these things.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Next, where's
Matt? Just one more tidbit on that. Matt.
Anything? Yeah.
He's in a really awesome Columbus band now called Sixth Circle. It's electronic body music, EBM, which is I don't know if he made that up or if that's an actual thing, but it's like industrial dance music. Really, nice. Really good.
Sixth Circle. I'm going to look it up.
Yep. Referring to the Sixth Circle of Hell.
Excellent. So there's 9, right?
I think so.
So what is the 6th? Do you know?
I looked it up, but I forgot it.
If anyone's watching and you want to fill us in on what the 6th circle is, if you want to, check it out, open a new window real quick. But okay. But also, so I am because I have this new event space that we're working on. I can have bands. So I'm very excited. I can do sound baths. I can do public rituals. I'm very excited. We're going from basically having a space where we can have like 20 people to a space where we can have like 100 people. Well, if they're sitting at tables, 50 people. But yeah,
that's awesome. That opens up so many doors and windows, and I can't wait to see what's in there.
Letting it all in. Yeah, we just painted the walls black today,
Mhm.
and it looks fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the most comfortable cave you've ever been in.
Sounds like a cauldron.
Oh my God, that's the second person. So I'm trying to think of a name for it because I want it to be separate because I want the event space to be separate. And I'd actually talked to somebody the other day, and I was like, I'm opening this other space, and I would love it if you would play there. This happens to be a guy who supplies me with pig skulls on a regular basis. He's a friend of mine.
Everybody needs that guy. Yeah.
I know. And so he had actually asked me if heretics, Jim Christmas says heretics are the sixth circle. Nice. Love it. Satan. Yeah. So that's fantastic. But yeah, so he had asked me, he's like, oh, so are you in a new shop or is like a venue? I was like, it's a venue. I'm talking like with a stage and a sound system. And his next question was, when is the Cauldron opening? And I'm like, And I looked it up. There's a Cauldron in New York. There's a Cauldron in Philly. And I think there's one in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But there's none here. We do have a Cauldron tattoo here in Columbus. But that's a different business. But yeah, the Cauldron is because it's literally black on the inside. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still working on it. I'm kicking around names and I'm taking all suggestions, just so you all know. Any suggestion you want to throw at me, down.
The void, something with the void. So, that kind of like imagining the black and there's like this concept called in Gestalt therapy called the fertile void, which is this. Basically, it's when you get to an impasse and you don't know what to do and no matter what you do, you don't see a way out and you're just stuck and from that place of stuckness, when you kind of like surrender, then something will be born from that surrender, and so that's why it's called fertile. So it's a cool idea. But
that's a cool idea. I'm never gonna name anything fertile though, because I'm terrified of being transferred onto me. I have 3 kids already. I don't need to be any more fertile than I already am.
Gotta be careful.
Yeah, people ask me to do like fertility work, and I'm like, not getting my hands anywhere near that stuff. No way. Void Cauldron. That's interesting, man. That sounds like a band.
Yeah.
Void Cauldron. So feel free, anybody who wants to start that band. It's totally fine. And then you can come play at the Cauldron Columbus. We're going to get this going. Okay. So my next questions are going to be more about your book, which is one. What? Did you have a question? Would you like to? No? She only wants to talk when I'm talking. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
The Alchemist's Cup. That's cute. Oh, wait. The Holy Doctor. That's good too. This makes me think Holy Driver. Holy Diver, sorry.
Holy Diver, yeah.
Holy Driver is a golf club. I'm just kidding. But yeah, okay. So how did you find witchcraft or whatever it is that you call your form of practice or magic? I'm not sure if you use the word witchcraft. I know you use weirdcraft, but how did you find your first magical doorway?
Let's see. It definitely started in the woods when I was little, and that was the doorway. Yeah, that opened everything, and it was I didn't even know what it was at the time. It was just I felt what I called God at the time in the woods. And but as far as like beginning to craft or doing more intentional craft, I joined, let's see. Yeah, that's a tough question because there's like there's a thread that goes all the way back to those woods, and that thread kind of goes into music being a form of craft. When I was doing that in high school, and the way that the music made me feel, just how it was so healing, and then that thread kind of continued and moved into meditation stuff. So I started with kind of Tibetan Buddhist meditation in Columbus, and and that went into psychedelics. So that was a
As
really
it does.
yeah
I want deeper meditation. I want answers from my meditation.
yeah. And I think that was probably the big doorway that opened up into magic, because I wanted to try to explain my experiences or make sense of those experiences, as well as my friends that I was experimenting with, this group of people. And we were playing music together, and we started to, we were getting into yoga and meditation and Western magical systems,
Mhm.
like the Golden Dawn and tarot, and I got into the I Ching a little bit, and that was like early 20s, yeah, and then when I moved to the Bay Area in my mid 20s, that's when I met some Thelemites, and
Mhm.
that well, actually, before that, I met the Thelemites, and that kind of opened up a lot, as far as like getting more into the details with things, with the correspondences and the directions and elements and doing ritual. And but I never really was initiated into any of that. I was more of just like an observer, and I also was involved with Gnostic masses and stuff like that. But um, really a great group, and then great people, and then that led me to this tantra group that worked with the goddess Kali, and the teacher of that group was initiated into a couple tantric sects in India, and was given the instruction to bring the teachings to the U.S. And so, yeah, through Thelema, I connected with the dark goddess, and that's what brought me to Kali, because I was already practicing meditation and was like studying Shivism
Mhm.
and Shaivism, and stuff like that. And so and it was kind of like a Wicca Tantra mix. So
Interesting. Okay.
we're doing a lot of ritual together, and it was a lot of traditional puja, but
Mhm.
also some, they were witches, they were and so yeah. And then I guess eventually, I went to school, and that eventually brought me to weird. After that, I went through that process, and I came across the concept of weird, and it just like that tied everything together. It tied all of those experiences that I just shared together into this process. I saw like, oh my God, like this has been happening all along.
Mhm.
All these different things were like different steps in this journey. And it was fate. It was destiny, that I kind of came across this concept. And there's a lot of things I didn't mention, like, I mentioned in the book, like falling out of the window, having near death experiences,
Mhm.
and other weird experiences with ghosts and fairies and whatever, throughout my life, that it described all of them. It
Mhm.
was like, oh, that's it. And then the book kind of blossomed out of that pretty quickly. It's just um so yeah, I guess that's
So, and it makes sense to me that your magical stuff, like the finding all of that spiritualism, and then drugs, and then deeper like ceremonial magic and Wicca stuff, all of that, it makes total sense that that would bring you to finding the weird.
yeah.
And so, can you give our watchers just a what is weird? Give us that.
Mhm. Um, well, what is weird?
And for people who have just tuned in, just so you know, we're talking about weird spelled WYRD, right? Which is, I looked up It's so silly, but like I looked up the differences in pronunciation, and the only thing I could tell is that when you look it up spelled with a Y, you get an English accent. That
Weird.
weird. So, and in my head, so the difference between the two when I say them, it's like, like something that's bizarre, like, oh, weird. But something that's like weird, it's like weird, right? Like, because it's got that like magic-y thing, right? Because it's not just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a weird way to say that. No, that's a weird thing that happened today, right? There's like a
Yeah.
totally different inflection or feeling. So, okay, I'm gonna stop
Mhm.
cutting you off. Tell us what weird is.
No, I love it. Yeah, because in many ways, like it's about the experience. It's about that feeling. Like that is weird. It's weird. It's deeper. It goes into the depth realm, into the depth realm of soul. Well, it's so weird with a Y. Um, the way that I kind of, I don't know, conceptualize it in the book is that I define it as being a goddess, a force, a being, um, a mystery, fate, destiny, nature, soul, magic, and this process of becoming. So that's a lot. Like every one of those can be, there's like so much depth and so much mystery to every single one of those concepts. But every single one of them is weird. And if you imagine they all weave together. Imagine, that they weave together in this braid that they create when they do weave together. That's weird. And other cultures have called it all different sorts of things, but it's like it's the divine, it's God, it's Tao, it's Great Spirit, it's the mystery, it's it's all that, and but yeah, it turned into weird as we know it today. So it became this really deep, like, wow, kind of expansive, mysterious, soulful thing became this more like brush it off. Oh, that was weird. Like, oh, that's weird. Or even that's weird. Like that's bad.
Right.
And that makes sense that happened because even historically speaking, weird was like people were like, you know, they knew that weird could mean doom, like it meant death as well, and that's like present in Beowulf. That the way when weird is mentioned there. So yeah, weird is death, and it's transformation. It's becoming, but yeah, it turned into weird, evil, odd, off, like the witch that
Things that make
wasn't.
people uncomfortable are weird.
Yeah, yeah, and just as you can imagine, like historically, like the witch, the village witch or something used to be a healer, a midwife, a counselor, an herbalist, doing all these things that was helping people, but um, also a diviner. People didn't really know, like they were kind of like pushing them a little bit. They were on the edge of the village or something, and maybe a long time ago they were central, but as time went by, they got pushed more and more to the edges of the village, and they got pushed out, and they became evil, and they became people were suspicious of them, and just like, yep. And so yeah, and then the weird sisters of Shakespeare, that's the old hags, like, ugh, these like ugly old, dangerous evil witches, in Christianity, and I don't, there's like all sorts of reasons how weird became weird. But I do think that a lot of those modern definitions of weird are still appropriate to describe this ancient version, because weird, the divine weird, is strange. It is odd. It's very unusual, and it's scary because it's just beyond understanding, and it does have to do with death, and it does have to do with magic, and these things that are bigger than us. Yeah. And yeah, even the gods were afraid of weird. They were afraid of the fates.
Because
Of,
they knew things. They
yeah.
knew things that other people didn't, that even the gods didn't know. And that made them weird, but also what they were doing itself, not as an adjective, but like the activity was weird, right?
Mhm.
It's almost a verb, right? They are
Yeah.
doing the weird.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a verb in Scotland. Like eventually, it turned into a verb. Well, originally, weird meant like to twist, and so you can
Interesting.
imagine that being like twisting threads or making twine or something
Mhm.
like that. And so you can imagine also matter. Come like reality coming into form as being this coming together and weaving together of the elements of reality and stuff like that. And yeah.
Michelle has a question for you. What goddess do you work with? And anyone's path you follow or are interested in? So a little more about your personal practice currently, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I do work with weird as a goddess, but also, as a non-dual phenomenon too. But yeah, Kali, like I mentioned, I was in that Kali group. So Kali has been a big part of my practice for a long time, and Hecate as well. The dark goddesses, Freya, the Norns, and Gaia. I have a lot of goddess goddesses that I work with, but in a way they kind of all weave together, at least for me, into a single kind of goddess slash
Energy. It's almost
energy
like,
being
yeah.
force that is weird. And so it's a strange mixture of like kind of being monotheistic and polytheistic at the same time. And
That's strangely, it makes a lot of sense to me.
yeah, yeah.
I see all of these things. I see the world as we know it and spirituality, the sort of the mesh of everything. It's almost like the fabric, right? It's like that like it's almost like graph paper that's got peaks and valleys, and then it's colored as our human world,
Mm,
but it also represents the divine. So
mhm,
weird, actually, as I was reading through the book, made a lot of sense to me. I was like, oh, it makes more sense than like single god worship, right? It's sort of like you're worshiping everything, including nature. Like that this is all part of what we should be working with, sort of revering and
mhm,
being aware of, right?
mhm.
Do you find that being aware of the weird, do you find that being aware of it makes things easier?
Um, I think so. I think so.
That's an excellent. Sometimes,
Yeah.
because sometimes being too aware can make things complicated and almost too much. You're like, why
Mhm.
can't shit just be random? But I
Yeah.
think that according to your book and the way that you talk about the way that things are, there really isn't random.
Yeah. 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 It can be overwhelming, right? Like, imagine, you pull a card, tarot card, and you look at it and you think, and there's how many interpretations for that card, right? So many. And then you turn it upside down and then, whoa, okay, what does that mean? And you can kind of go a little batty, obsessing
Oh,
over all of the interpretations. And so awareness does have that effect where it's like the more you're aware of, the more like, ooh, you got to take a deep breath. And
mhm.
but at the same time, the more aware you are, um, the more you can see how you or I or any of us creates suffering for ourselves, and we can make different choices to kind of let go or to sacrifice our unnecessary suffering, which does make life easier. So I do think that awareness does make life easier, but it may not feel easier.
I feel like I agree completely. There are times that it makes it feel like there's more to the suffering or more to the thought processes that you have to have. But I think but in the long run, if your goal is to be happy in the long run, I think that the more information is better. I think, but it definitely can bring it down. So Jim Christmas says, I first heard of the weird usage in the Odyssey uttered by Cyclops. Can you say that word? Polyphemus?
Polyphemus, maybe?
Okay. After he is blinded by Odysseus, now comes the weird upon me. Oh, that's a great way to use it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a noun. Now comes the weird, the effect, the thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
What's that?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the Odyssey, and just I didn't know that. I didn't know that was used in the Odyssey, and that just makes me happy. Yeah.
I like that too. That's fantastic. And Betty says the cauldron weird. Betty's trying to think of things. She also said iron cauldron up here and soul cauldron, but that's a little too much like soul coffin to me. So I don't think we could do that. I like the iron cauldron. There's something about that, but it sounds like a cooking show for witches, which I love. But we're so close. I feel like we're dancing around it, so it's gonna come. But I also like the weird cauldron would be fun. But yeah, but I did not know much about the word itself when you showed up at the shop, and I had seen the email from your publisher that I, like a jackass, ignored. So I did not have you in my shop doing a book signing because things fall through the cracks. Plates stop spinning sometimes. It happens. But I was so happy that you took the time to come and visit the shop and talk to me, because otherwise I would not have picked up the book. Because honestly, at this point, I really only read when I have an interview. So, but you coming in and showing it to me and really diving into it, I love this concept. It makes so much sense to me, which I'm guessing is how it struck you when you first found it. Like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. So what led you to writing the book?
Let's see. I think it was a part of my weird, but I think it was largely a healing. It was like a healing process for me in a way.
Sort of like getting everything down and out.
Yeah, but also, remember, well, I mentioned like the different things that the thread that kind of led me to weird. I didn't really mention it, but my healing path was an integral part of finding witchcraft and coming to weird and understanding the concept of weird through the process of psychological healing, spiritual healing, and physical healing, and ecological healing, and all these healing the web of weird ultimately. So I think that was the reason. It was almost like I'd spent so much time in the forest and so much time just communing with the forest and learning to speak with the forest and just loving the forest, and it really felt like it was the forest speaking through me as I was kind of writing the book. So I wondered if I should even put something like that in the book, like read this book as if it's the forest talking, because at a lot of parts it doesn't really have like a personal voice, so to speak. Like I do share some stories in it, but a lot of it's kind of cut and dry. It's like
I don't know that I'd agree with you on that. I really don't. I feel like I was able to hear you talking throughout it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I really felt like it was It's not as cut and dry as you think, I don't think.
I appreciate you saying that, because you know, it's hard to see your own work, you know, because you're kind of in it so much. But
Oh, for sure. For sure.
yeah, but it was
It's hard to see the weird for the trees.
exactly.
It's here to help.
You got it. Yeah, it was kind of like a celebration. It was healing. It was a healing process. It helped me from going insane, I think, because like you're saying, just to get it out, like there's a lot that I had in my mind and my nervous system for so long that I wanted to share, and I didn't know how. And and when I found that concept of weird, everything made sense, and it was like,
it's like it didn't come together. It illuminated that it was already always was.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. It's like a memory. And I talk about that a lot in the book, that weird is something we remember, or it doesn't even need to be called weird, just the divine, the truth, the nature of things, the essence. We know the stuff. And so the book isn't necessarily even saying anything new. And maybe that's why you felt like you really got it too, because it's like a memory. You're just remembering, you're reading what you already know, kind of. It's like when you read a tarot deck or something. It's like you see the answers that, like, oh, I knew that.
Right. Yeah. Doing readings for myself is really just like, okay, you're just making it seem worse than it is. Okay. But I already know that.
Yeah.
But it did feel like that in a way that was, there were many times where I was like, oh my God. So I have to tell you, as I was going through it, I have so many weird bookmarks, and I don't normally dog ear pages, but I would be somewhere without an extra bookmark, and I'm like, well, I can't not do this. And so like I would big dog ear something. So I'd be like, okay, this is the topic I want to talk about. And then this is so funny. I would get to the point where I'm like big dog earing, right? And then I would turn the page and be like, oh, that too. And I have to like double dog ear it now.
You got a good system. That's good.
But then when I do have random pieces of paper, I use those too. I have a lot of crazy notes. But yeah, it does feel that way. There were so many times that I felt like this whole thing on meaning and purpose. Yeah, let's see. So it's often a prolonged lack of purpose or meaning that leads to many of the symptoms that bring people into therapy. That was definitely something that hit me, like, because there's and then you talk about actually what you just said before, the fertile void, where you have a lack, and because you have that lack, you sit in that void. And it's like you talk about it here, that's where the meaning and purpose show themselves.
Yeah, you find a deeper part of yourself that was waiting to come out, or that was blocked, or yeah, there's so many layers that we have, and a lot of blocks. Well, there's a lot of layers between our conscious awareness now and kind of our essence, in a way.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
And that meaning and purpose can change with time. And what may be meaningful and purposeful for the first 20 years of your life. I mean, before Saturn return or something, the Saturn return is a good fertile void. That's like, oof.
That's the noise that comes from a lot of people, like, oh. Yeah. That's the noise I hear from people who have been through it, talking to people who are about to go through it. They're like, oh, well, good luck. We're here for you.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's meant to be, right? It's like it has to happen, and it's like we all go through those kind of death rebirth moments. It's a cyclical process. It's like our own little internal Ragnarok that's happening, and yeah, there's the cycling through the ages. It always comes back to the golden age or whatever, or and the new is reborn, and that new meaning or new purpose is revealed, and then wow, and then we ride that chariot for as long as we can until the flame, I don't know, it needs to be let go of or passed on, or I don't know, until the next thing. But there's no end. There's no end to.
No, and hopefully through the cycling, we ascend and grow and become more comfortable with the scope with the scope of weird, with the scope of what life is. We you know, I often say that as we go through these cycles, hopefully while we're spiraling up, so that we're doing this again, but maybe with a little more wisdom, maybe with a little more perspective. Maybe the pendulum swing won't affect us as much as it has in the future, in the past, right? So maybe this time it'll be easier because we've learned, because we've done some work.
Yeah. The more aware we become, right, the more we can make, wiser choices and
be less affected by the problems that come, even if we don't.
Yeah. And one, like, we all have our own weird. Like, everybody has their own unique weird. So there's this kind of greater weird, but weird also exists within us. And, so my weird would be everything that I am. So it's like, it's my challenges, it's my shadow, it's my foolishness, it's also my potential, it's my gifts, and what I'm meant to bring into the world. It's my fate, it's my destiny, for better or worse. It is what it is, kind of thing. And the more we bring our awareness to this, the more we can, I don't know, in a way, speed along the process. And
also have less anxiety about the process. I think that the more everything that you were just saying, so you seem to have a very relaxing way about you, which is good because you're a therapist. It's very good. But it's like it's sort of like no matter what happens, it's not that big of a deal. Everything's going to be okay. We don't need to be so worried about it. So I feel like it's my dog is literally licking the door. What she's doing, she's licking my bedroom door. I don't know
what's it taste like.
Dust is my guess. I haven't dusted it in a long time. I don't think I've ever washed that door, but anyway. But I feel like, I feel like the more in tune with the weird, with the divine, with the web of things, the more in tune you are with that, and the more you practice, more you commune with it, your vibration changes, to one that is more in sync with it. And that is very calming and soothing, which I think is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. It makes me think about the flow state and how, being in sync, attuning, finding those things where you can get into the flow state, and magic is a huge, ritual, divination, all that is flow state stuff, and how good that feels, and how much trust there is, even if things are falling apart, the tower or whatever, there's like trust in that. There's like, okay, going with the flow. And there's a lot of horrible things happening in the world. I mean, just what you mentioned at the beginning of the program, so it's hard to be with that and hold everything's going to be okay at the same time. It's really difficult, to do that, but it's possible. It's possible.
I think you froze on us, but that's okay. You'll come back in a second. While Ash is coming back, Jim said, Saturn return, eh? I thought I was in the midst of male menopause. Thanks for the heads up. Is there male menopause? Is that a thing? And also, Saturn return, I said like 27, and then again another 27, which would be what, 54?
So hold both.
Okay, wait, you're back. Wait, no. All right, well, technical difficulties are real. That's okay. Okay, so Betty has a new name for the thing, Tilted Cauldron. Okay, one sounds like Tilted Kilt, which I don't have a problem with, but also it sounds like a carnival ride, the Tilted Cauldrons. I've got some space out back. Maybe we can make that happen. Who could make me a carnival ride? All right, and can you guys still hear me or see me? Can somebody let me know that, if that's a thing? Or are we disconnected altogether? Because I'm still getting numbers and things. Okay, well, I don't know. I'm just going to keep talking at all of you as we go on. And hopefully Ash will get his stuff. I'm good. Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Jessica. I'm sure Ash will be back in a moment. But for now, you've got me. Hello. So yeah, and I want to talk to him about this so much, but synchronicities. I want to talk to him about synchronicities because the weird thing when he came to visit, all right, Jim, send me a whole link. I'll look at it. I don't know what all of that is. What is that? It's a male menopause article. So if any of you want to read up on male menopause, Jim has given us a whole link for it. And Ash is back. Yay! Hello.
Hey. Yeah, I was going to mention that at the beginning, that it's really windy, and there's trees falling over on power lines, on Wi-Fi lines, and all that. So that may happen again. I hope
that's
not.
Okay. Technical difficulties are totally fine. We'll write them out. I'm fine with just telling jokes until you get back.
Well, it's all going to be okay. Right?
Exactly. It's all going to be okay. This is something I literally say to all of my staff, and if I'm like running an event or something and things are falling apart, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. We're all going to be okay, no matter what. I say it to my kids. I say it to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Things fall apart. I'm in charge of a lot of stuff, but you know what? It's all going to be okay.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. So something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I don't remember what we were talking about before because I have terrible attention problems, but synchronicity. Synchronicities are something that I live with to a point where I don't even talk about them anymore because they happen so often. And for example, I put this in here because I had this book. I was doing some work and I had this next to me, and my friend came up and she opened the book. And she was like, "Oh, this is the person you're interviewing." She opens the book and she looks down and she's like, "Oh, yeah, synchronicity, deja vu. Carl Jung." She's like, "I'm actually reading his book on synchronicity right now." I'm like, of course you are. And that's and I marked the page because that's what she opened up to. And I'm like, and that's how this goes. So
yeah,
I have my own thoughts about synchronicity, but you tell us yours.
Oh, I'd love to hear yours too, but
mine are probably what you've heard a million times. On the right path means that things are going well. Like, take it as a sign that, but you're the one who wrote the book. You tell us. Oh no, did you freeze again? Oh man, we're going to get synchronicities out of him eventually. But okay, so yeah, since he's frozen. Oh wait, what? Nope, you're back. Yep.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. Well, synchronicity. Yeah. So same thing, like, yeah, in the right place at the right time. I do think that they are messages from weird, from this being that is weird. And am I coming through?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Synchronicity. Yeah, it's certainly a weird, with an EIRD. It's a weird experience. when they happen, it's like, oh, that was weird. Or like you're saying, that was weird.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah, and that's when I use the why. Well, I will from now on, because it's like, dude, that was weird. Because the amount of times that something will come up that, and I'm not talking my phone showing me an ad for something I talked about. I know that's not weird. That's advertising. But that's messing with our privacy and advertising. But when things that cannot be linked, I can't find any way that they were linked together, and then suddenly these two things. My entertainment. Okay. Entertainment does it to me all the time. Okay. Get this. Day before yesterday, we decided to watch Signs. Remember the Mel Gibson movie Signs?
Yeah.
So we watched that, and I forgot, if you guys haven't watched it in a while, it is way more emotional than I remembered. Okay. Like, it is a really emotional movie. It's a very scary movie. It's about aliens. M. Night Shyamalan is an amazing director, writer, all the things that he does, but it's much more emotional. Anyway, so watch that. And then the next day, and I haven't seen Signs in I don't know how long, and I don't know what made me watch it. But then the next day, I'm watching this new show, Poker Face, right? Natasha Lyonne is in this new show called Poker Face. And this is the one that she personally directed, because I listened to her interview. But the woman who's in it, I'm looking at her, and I'm like, that's the cop. That's the cop from Signs. How? That's so weird. Like, that I just watched that, and I haven't seen that actress in how long, and forever. And Signs was out 15 years ago or something. And here she is in a brand new show that just released last week. And I happen to, so for entertainment, it happens to me a lot where I will randomly watch a show, and then, a random episode of Modern Family, and then a random episode of Community, and then a random episode of Laverne and Shirley. And all of them will have the same theme or the same actor or some madness. But I love that. It makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel like I chose the right thing randomly.
Mm-hmm.
It's so random.
Yeah, makes me think of different things. One makes me think of Mercury or Hermes as being kind of the messenger, right? The messenger of weird, delivering messages, and
he's like that arm of weird.
Yeah.
Right?
And then it, going back to kind of the definition I had of weird earlier as being fate, destiny, nature, magic, and soul, I would say that synchronicity it's a manifestation of soul. That is soul coming through. That's magic coming through. That's nature. It's all those things together, coming out and saying, hey. It's like the kind of trickster. It's like, hey, I see you. You see me. And that makes me think of this. The Rumi phrase, "That which you are seeking is seeking you." Right? I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase.
It's one of those phrases that gives me a little
yeah.
Like something is seeking me. That's it makes me feel special in a way. I like that.
You are. Yep. And yeah, so that which you are seeking is seeking you. I think that those moments are messages from that thing that's seeking you, that's saying, keep doing what you're doing. Like, we're gonna be meeting up pretty soon, and that thing is ultimately a mystery. Call it weird, call it soul or fate or destiny or I don't know, trickster or whatever. But wow, it's such a gift to be able to have those experiences and to share them, because something about sharing them just it feeds that inner flame. It feeds that connection and that process. And
I think that it does. I think I know it's crazy, but it makes me feel more magical. It makes me feel more in the right place at the right time. Again, that the decisions that I'm making are the right ones, even if it's just something as inconsequential as what show I am watching. Because I'm an entertainment person. I love movies. And every time you mention Ragnarok, I'm just all, in Avengers mode. But that's sort of my downtime. That's sort of my green time is, shows and things and movies. And so when these things, and I watch them randomly, right? Like, who knows what movie from 30 years ago I'm going to watch, and then a show that's brand new or something. And when it happens this way, it always sort of reinforces, I guess it reinforces my green time. We're like, no, you were supposed to sit down and watch this. You were supposed to relax during this time, which I love.
Yeah, that to me that means that that sounds like you're a good listener. You're like, and I think the more we learn to listen on multiple levels, again, like not just with our ears, but with our heart and with our mind, and listening to the intuition or listening to nature, listening to soul, etc. That it's synchronicities happen more, and yeah, you're hearing the fates call in those moments. So the synchronicity is like it's the fates call. It's
I love that. I love that. Uh, so yeah, and full disclosure, I did not finish the book. I read about half of
Mhm,
it and I skimmed
mhm.
a lot of the rest of it.
It
But
takes time. It takes a lot of time to read, I think. Yeah.
it's but you know what? I really found myself getting into it when I did. Like I stayed
Yeah.
up way too late last night reading.
Yeah.
But I was pulled to continue reading because there were parts where I was like, well, I'm just gonna literally last night I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna skim this part real quick because I just want to make sure that I understand. And I would just get sucked in instead of just skimming, like the whole meaning. I'm like, oh yeah, no, like what I do, where was that? Where was my double one? This was crazy. So yeah, like meaning and purpose. I have a general idea of what all of that means, and in the scope of what we're talking about. But instead of just skimming, I literally got sucked in to reading it, and then again stayed up way too late. But the book pulls me in a way to actually spend time with it and not just skim.
Mhm,
What was my double? I need to figure out what my double one was. I need to look under the light here.
mhm,
Oh, right. So entertainment, one of the things I love, and that includes books. You talk about one of so as soon as I turned the page and I saw Aaron Morgenstern's name, I was like,
mhm.
where are we going with this? Because I love that woman in a whole way.
Um,
And you talk about the starless sea, right? And
mhm,
the moments with meaning. Oh my God! And the how he missed the first door that was presented to him, right?
mhm,
And and then he gets to hear about how he missed the first door later on. So like I don't know where
mhm.
I was going with this, but I wanted to get it in there because I love that book, and that book made me feel one with purpose and meaning to the point where I wanted to get a bee and a sword and whatever else tattooed on me so badly.
Yeah.
I wanted all of those things. I
Yeah.
didn't know where I fit into the story, but I wanted to.
Yeah, but you felt like you did. I mean, that's how I felt too. That book is brilliant. It's magic, and it is healing. And I think that's another bit about synchronicity and kind of the fates call and stuff, is that they are calling us to healing. I think the process, this process that we're all in is a healing process, that we are returning to this memory of
Mhm.
of who we know we are, where we came from, our fullness, our wholeness, our infinite nature, etc. Or whatever, this, it's a healing process the whole way through. Um, and yeah, so yeah, that book, awesome,
Ah,
so good. And I was like just happy to plug it in my book, because it just, I mean, that's
I
a true work of art.
I think it was the reason I stayed up so much later than I should have because I read that and then I got all like
Mhm,
adrenaline up. I'm like, oh, wow. And then I was like pushed forward to read so much more last night. So it was fantastic.
mhm,
Um, so so when that book came out, I don't know about you, but I'm a person who reads multiple things at the same time just because I can't help it.
mhm.
But I was reading, and this is crazy because I don't normally read two fictions at the same time, but I was reading Piranesi and Starless Sea at the same time. Have you ever read Piranesi?
I
It's
don't I don't know that one.
okay. Oh God, you guys, if whoever's still watching, you might need to help me out. But it's the guy who wrote Jonathan
Jonathan
Strange
Strange?
and Mr. Norrell, right? Like
Mm,
so, same person
mhm,
wrote Piranesi. So this was their second book, and Starless Sea was Aaron Morgenstern's second book, and I read them both at the same time, and the parallels are insane. I mean, both have underground seas. That in itself, and yeah, just, you know, a person out of their own place, and the mystery. Yeah, if anyone wants to read two amazing books, Piranesi is one, and Starless Sea. I like Starless Sea actually even better, but I was a Night Circus super fan, so super.
Yeah,
fan.
I love the stories within stories within stories, just like that kind of layered element. It's so weird, you know. It really is a weird, like that book is a great example of weird. You can learn a lot about weird just by reading it. And
oh my God, it is the intertwining of all of the different stories, and as you find out how they're intertwined as you go through the book, is a beautiful unfolding. I cannot recommend it enough. It's but yeah, reading that, like when I turned the page and saw her name and then the book, I was just like, I totally meant to be reading this right now.
so many of those like great works of art, those great books or stories have that intertwining of stories. And there's something about just that itself, that intertwining, that is so inspiring and like interesting, and like it pulls you in. It pulls, you know, the experiencer into the experience. And that to me, you know, I have kind of a bad habit of seeing weird everywhere in a way. It's like confirmation bias. Yeah, but so it's almost like that is like weird is just a magnetic thing, and you can see it show up in all these different ways, and it just pulls you into it. It pulls you towards moments of meaning, or towards things that inspire you. It pulls you towards your own creativity and gifts, and
feelings of connection. You know, like it definitely pulls you towards feelings of connection. You know, just. When a long time ago, when I met Mortellus, who wrote Do I Have to Wear Black, one of the things that she kept bringing up in her book, and I finally called her out on it in her interview, I was like, I feel like you're a Dark Materials fan. Like you're for sure like Bill Pullman? No, what's his? Is that
Bill? Is that the guy from Spaceballs?
No, the guy who wrote his Dark Materials. But thank you for that. Yes. He's the guy who wrote Dark Materials is a Pullman, I think. But it made me so happy to see these things that I didn't know anybody else even cared about referenced, you know, and her coven is Coven of Leaves. And she was like, do you know what that's from? I'm like, is it House of Leaves? Because that's like an amazing book. Also very crazy. But like, you know, just feeling that connection to somebody who enjoys and loves the same things that you do for whatever weird reason they do is so lovely. The Cauldron Black, Betty has been in the background suggesting names this whole time. I just want to point this out. The Cauldron Black, she's also Hell Synchronicities. I feel like you need to be naming bands for sure.
Yeah, that's really
Divining
good.
Pool.
Oh, I like that.
I feel like Divining Pool could be an event name. Now I'm picturing lots of like fountains and pools. I wonder if we could get a full-size fountain in there. And I don't know. Think about that. But yeah, Cauldron Black. I love you, Betty. Betty is one of the people who she makes brooms that we sell, and she is fantastic. She works at a nursery, and she has all of these like amazing raw materials that she makes these beautiful natural brooms with, and I love her. Okay, what other? I don't even know. I've gotten so far away from my questions. Where even are we? Let's see. Do I even have any more questions? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So, like, what was your favorite part? Like, what is your favorite chapter in the book? Which part were you like? This was. Sorry. dog med alarm.
I had different parts as I was writing it, at different stages. I think the first part that I really enjoyed writing was the section on soul and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, that's the meaning purpose chapter, I think. And then I really enjoyed the section on the weird three, like the Norns. That's later in the book about.
I want you to talk about that because you literally have the fates listed in the title, and I would love to hear you talk about the fates.
Yeah. Okay. The fates.
Because that's who the Norns are. Yes, am I wrong?
Yeah, they're the Norse Norns, and yep, there's Urth, which is there's Urth, Ferthandi, and Skuld. Those are the three Norns, and Urth is weird. Like that would be, so weird is an Anglo-Saxon word which translates in Norse to Urth. So and there's different conceptions of the Norns. Like some say that there are just like there's only one Norn, and that's Urth, or weird, and some say there are three. Well, that's the common one, is that there are three Norns. Also, there's this I think it's written in the lore that everybody has their own Norn. Like, so there are as many Norns as there are people, if not more. So
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I really like that idea, because I think that really that thing which we are seeking, that is seeking, could be our Norn, our own Norn, who is teaching us how to do magic.
Do you relate this to sort of like the HGA, like the higher guardian angel kind of thing?
I mean, I do mention that in the book, and I read a section on the daemon, the diamond.
Okay.
The
Again, I didn't get that far, so I'm super interested. Like, tell me more about this.
Yeah, well, see if I can kind of combine them all. But my kind of idea. So there's the Norns, right? They're sitting at the base of the world tree, and you can imagine this. There's the Well of Weird there, and they take water from the Well of Weird, and they water the world tree, and they take mud from the Well of Weird, and they put it on the tree to heal wounds of the tree, to help the tree survive from being attacked by this dragon that's eating its roots. And in the process, so they're taking care of the tree. They're just devoting their lives to this tree. The tree, in turn.
I need to let them out because they
no problem.
Talk over you. Okay, come on. Let's go outside. Let's go. Let's just go out in the living room. Both of you, go. She's literally like turning circles to the door. Go. Okay, go on. Sorry.
The fates are calling her out. They're calling her outside. So so they're taking care of the tree, and there's the idea in the book of sacred reciprocity, that the cycle of the gift cycle of giving and receiving. So when the Norns are giving so much to the tree, what they receive from the tree is kind of the teachings of the essence of tree spirit, and how to stay rooted, how to be strong, flexible, reaching into the sky, trusting. But they're also the tree also teaches them magic. So that's how they learn. This is all kind of in my mind, and I'm sure so it's not necessarily in the lore. Some of this is actually in the lore, but this idea that the Norns were the first practitioners of magic, or the fates themselves, they're kind of the first witches, and they taught Freya how to practice Scythe, which is this kind of Norse shamanic kind of witchcraft, and then it just kind of got passed on from there. So our own individual Norn that we have is teaching us how to practice magic, and that magic will help us to reunite with our Norn, and in a sense reunite with the world tree, and become one with existence, because the world tree in Norse cosmology is all the worlds. It's like it's the whole cosmos. So where they sit under the tree, they sit in meditation, and they're just like they're one with the tree, and then they wake up and they weave, they carve the fates of everything, and they weave the fates, and they do their magic. So that's kind of this that which you are seeking is seeking you idea. I think that they are teaching, they're teaching us how to return, how to become our own fates, to create, to preserve, and to destroy all the things that they do.
To think of this thought that what you are seeking is seeking you. What it makes me feel like is that I should be doing what I can to help that thing that's seeking me find me, as in get out of my own damn way, right? Stop doing things that are counterproductive to what it is that I am seeking, because then it's also counterproductive to whatever's seeking me to get to me, right? This, it's almost like what do you say at the gym to like pump yourself up, right? Sort of like a personal mantra, inspirational speak, right?
Yeah, like
that's how it feels to me. Say that again.
It's like an affirmation, or yeah, but it's a reminder. It's like, yeah. Well, I was going to say something to that. That what you're seeking you. Like, oh yeah, get out of your own way. Like it kind of goes back to that idea of flow, and the more we get out of our own way, the more we get in the flow state, and then we have direct access with that which we are seeking, and that which is seeking us. That flow state goes right to that.
It could almost be that the flow state itself is what is seeking us, right? To get us back into the current that we're supposed to be swimming in, right? Or moving in, or however I'm a water person, so I like to swim in it. But to get into that, because it's almost like I am seeking direction and peace and purpose and whatnot, and that is also seeking me. And if I can get there, it will be easier to move forward once I can join with that which is seeking me. That makes sense.
Yep. It'll be easier. There will be more trust. There will be more motivation. There will be more love, more healing, more connection, more magic, more soul, more, all these
love and connection. That's what magic is made of, right? So once we can get more of that, then we can actually go further with our personal path.
And so a lot of the book is about healing, and this process being a healing process, and getting out of our own way being a big part of the healing process. And the goal isn't to become perfect. I want to be clear about that. It's like it's not some idea of perfection or anything like that. The goal is in a sense just to become more aware of one's wholeness. That I have got this shadow side, I've got this light side, I've got my flaws, my issues, my anxieties, my depression, my addictions, whatever it may be. And I have my love, I have the part of me that is creative, I have the part of me that is kind, and the part of me that needs healing. I see my wounds when I see my wholeness, and I'm like, oh, I need to heal that. I need to get out of my own way, or figure out what I need to do to heal this wound. And if some wounds can't be healed, right, they're going to be a wound. And then and then there's the how can I live with this? How can I
Right.
accept?
It's how to keep this from being an obstacle.
Yeah. hmm Which and then there you are, right in the flow again. When you know, yeah, the wave. Yeah, weird. On like a metaphysical level, is the wave. It's the ups and down. It's the
Mhm.
wave, like you said. It's the spiral.
Mhm.
It's because things return
Yeah.
over and over. They're going to come back, and um, the
And
wave.
the hope is that you learn something on the next turnaround.
Yeah. hmm And so, yeah, the more awareness that we can bring to that process, the more we learn, right?
Yes, absolutely. The more awareness, I think, uh, I'm a big tarot person, and I really think that the World card is a super important one because I think that it's sort of it's sort of a reminder of what the whole process looks like, in a way, like uh, okay, all right. I'm gonna totally tie this in with weird. So
Yeah.
I believe, and this actually comes from Rachel Pollack, who, as we know, is at the end of her life now. Like, I don't know if she's actually passed yet, but I know it's coming within the next couple of days. And Rachel Pollack is a huge influence in tarot, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. And she actually has a new book coming out through Wiser, which is happening, but incredibly sad because I love this person intensely from what they have taught me. But anyway, what I learned from them that was so impressive, was so impressioned on me, was that the World card comes after the Hermit, right? So the Hermit is number 9, where you go searching, you go inward, and then you've got the World card, which is number 10, and that is the vision that the Hermit sees. It is the map. It is the weird. It is what he's seeking, but it's only a vision of it, right? They don't experience it until the Hanged Man, but in this moment you get to see it for just
Mm.
for what it is, and to be able to take it all in. It's almost like a crazy fever dream, but
Mhm.
afterwards you have an idea of how things work, and I feel like that's what,
Mhm.
like, getting an insight like through your book or however else people can do that to like see what the map looks like.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Yep, and then you take that vision um, into your life, into your world, and live it. You live it into your life, and yeah, there's this movement within the psychotherapy community of integration, like psychedelic integration. So psychedelics are going to be more and more a part of therapy in the coming years, and
I really hope so.
yeah, and like you can take a trip and see everything, right? You can understand it all, and a lot of it you'll forget, but you'll carry a lot of it back with you. But then it's like it's a fire that needs to be tended. That vision needs to be tended and cared for, and it
Even if you
needs
don't exactly understand what it meant.
and expressing the vision can help to understand it. So yeah,
Art
exactly.
in any way. Do, like, draw it, write it out, explain your experience, do clay pieces about it, whatever you do,
Mhm.
because keeping it fresh in your mind, that feeling through that. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. This is actually your
No,
speech. Could you go?
no, no, you please finish. Yeah.
But that's because I feel like I've done some psychedelics, I've done
Yeah.
some things, and there have been times where I have glimpsed something that was so much bigger than me and uh, impression making. It left a mark on me that I wanted to not forget. Like, I wanted to write it down, and exactly all of the little things that I felt were super important at the time, like the way that thing turned and looked at me and what it was doing with its hand and all of these things. And you know, and I think that psychedelics becoming a part of therapy, as you're talking about, I think, I honestly think that can only be a good step forward. Uh,
Yeah.
and as John Oliver says, let's not fuck it up this time.
Yeah, yeah. The integration piece is like vital. That it's a sacred fire that needs to be tended mindfully. It's not like, oh, I did a trip, I'm done, it's over. Like, no.
Well,
It's
you can, and those are fun, and that's
it's
cool.
true. Yeah, I don't want to talk smack on that because I definitely have had those super fun moments.
Talk smack on recreational psychedelics.
Walking down High Street and seeing a wizard. Yeah.
Shut up.
2
Okay,
times.
well, I feel like now's the time to go back to Jim's comment, because he was like, that comment that he said earlier, there was a wizard in there. Now comes the weird upon me, spoken of old. A wizard, grand and wondrous, lives here.
Awesome.
So yeah, it comes around.
What translation is this, Jim?
Yeah, Jim, if you're still listening, and if you're not, I'll ask you later, but like what translation of the Odyssey is it that you are quoting to us? But okay,
Yeah.
so yes,
The world. I was just thinking about the hermit, and then the world. You have that vision, and then it's like, woof, what do you do with that vision?
what do you do with that? How do
Yeah.
you integrate that into your life?
Mhm.
So what in the tarot, all right, so oh my God, 11, because then it's justice. Oh, then it's justice. Then it's how do you balance your regular life with what you now know, right?
Mhm.
Like how do
Yeah.
you go back to living? How do you go back to doing your job in whatever thing you're doing now, knowing that you have seen the weird? Well,
Mhm.
I guess you quit your job and go after whatever it is you really want to do.
Follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss. I
Yeah.
had someone recently ask me if I really thought that following what you really wanted to do was the path to success.
Hmm.
Yes. I can't say that loud enough. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do what it is that pulls you. You talked earlier about your instinct and your gut and what pulls you, what makes you feel that way.
Mhm.
I have used those words so many times when trying to get people to figure out what is it that you want to do. I don't know. What makes you feel that way? What makes you like pulled from your gut forward? Like,
Mm.
what is it that when you look at it, you're like, oh, I need to know more about that.
Yeah.
If you have a thing that does that to you, go that way.
Mhm.
Baby steps, even make it a hobby for now. Just
Yeah.
go that way.
Spend as much time as you can with that
Oh, yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cultivate it. Yeah, it's that kind of inner flame. That's sacred fire I have the feeling that it wants to return to source. That little flame we have wants to return to the great flame. And it's our duty in a sense to bring it back to and then when we bring it back, we let it go. It's and we carry it from lifetime to lifetime until we bring it back.
I feel like just that statement alone, I've got like 3 other conversations that could lead us into like other 3-hour conversations. So I'm like, how do you
Yeah.
feel about reincarnation? Also,
Yeah.
like so many things. But I also
You,
realized that it's getting late, and I don't know how much time you've set aside for us, but we've already been on for almost 2 hours. And I'm fine to keep going, but I want to check in with you and make sure you're okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine to continue.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. How do you feel about reincarnation? Because you said through multiple lessons, so you clearly.
Yeah. I'm all for it. No, I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah. Reincarnation, rebirth. Yeah, I've had weird experiences of like past life, seeing past lives
Yeah.
and future lives and that kind of stuff. So yeah, to me, it's just kind of like an experiential. I don't know, maybe fact isn't the right word, but it's like, but it also doesn't matter in a way. It's like, yeah, that it's true, but I don't know. It's like the moment, the present moment is kind of um, a little more compelling.
It yes, 100% on that. It also doesn't matter, 100% on that, because a lot of times, whether it's in your head or something that really happened, doesn't really matter. Especially with like spiritual stuff, because people get hung up on like, well, I had this spiritual experience, but did it really happen? Was it really something? Did I really get visited by this goddess? Did you feel like you did?
Mm.
Because that's all that fucking matters, man. Like whether or not it can be like documented, or like, we get too hung up on being able to prove shit, being able to say, oh no, this is, well, it happened because, being able to defend. We get hung up on being able to defend our experience, but it doesn't actually matter, because
Mhm.
if you had the experience, that's what matters. Can the hermit document that he actually saw this map of the whole plan? I don't know, but he can draw it. That's pretty cool. So like, what, it doesn't really matter how valid your
Mhm.
visitation was, because it's fucking valid to you, because it mattered to you. If it's enough that you are affected by it and you're still thinking about it, stop getting
Mhm.
hung up on whether or not it was, I don't know, scientifically possible or some bullshit. Let that go and just
Yeah.
enjoy the weird, right?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
So Jim says, wait, so this is Jessica talking about the drugs we were talking about. From the earth is so much better than the pharmacy. 100%, of course. Actually, most of our pharmaceutical drugs, we all know, come actually from plants and things, the enzymes they've found. Jim Christmas, OSU has a psychedelic therapy program in the School of Social Work. Looking up the, so he's working on the Odyssey quote, figuring out where that translation came from. But in the meantime, OSU has a psychedelic therapy program in the School of Social Work. And I love the fact that psychedelic therapy has come back around. I love it. I am sad that it ever got pushed out. I think that it was something that, I don't know enough about it, but I definitely feel like some rock stars in the thing got a little too crazy, and that scared the norms, man. The norms got scared, and the norms had political influence, and they freaked out. Timothy Leary was just way too much for them, and then everything got fucking shut down. Again, I'm a John Oliver fan. He just did a thing on psychedelics 4 weeks ago, I think. It was like the new
Yeah, I
season.
saw that.
Did you see it?
Yeah. Mhm.
And the guy, like 30 years later, is still like, no, it was
Mhm.
amazing. It helped me. I'm still like addiction free because
Yeah.
of this thing that happened
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Still integrating the experience.
Still integrating the experience. He's
Yeah.
still processing that experience in a way that it is still affecting him, to the point where he is not doing the self-destructive shit that he was doing before.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Psychedelics are certainly weird, on all levels. They're and the say what?
Go, you
Oh,
go.
in the 60s, it was like you're saying, the norms or whatever, the squares. It was just really weird. It was too weird for them,
Yeah.
and too far outside of normal, and
Mhm.
especially like you think about Janis Joplin or Jimi Hendrix, people who followed their bliss you know,
It felt
and
thing.
yeah, and weird is also death, right? It's you have to be careful when you commune with fate, with the fates. You know, like we were saying earlier, even the gods feared the fates, and hubris is like is connected to the fates as well,
For sure.
and that possibility of of the god you know, I think it happens a lot with within actually witchcraft communities because we're working directly with gods and goddesses and archetypal energies and elements that are way bigger than us, you know, and it can be easy to get possessed, right, by these spirits, and in a sense to over identify with them, and and it can be really destructive. So there's like a fine line between um, and there's really interesting like psychological literature about what's called inflation when and it leads to psychosis pretty much like
Okay.
so I don't think mass psychosis is necessarily happening in the witchcraft community. That's not what I'm saying. I think that
That's a different show. Okay. I didn't think that's what you meant, but
yeah,
I get it. Go on.
witchcrafts and other kind of traditions give people a really great um, framework for possession, how to invoke and evoke these gods and goddesses with boundaries, with tools, and hopefully with elders. You know, and that's one thing that may be lacking because there's so many people practicing witchcraft, and you know the traditionally speaking there was the village and then there was the elder, and that elder could like take care of that village, but now it's like there's a lot of people practicing without elders, so it is a danger. uh, it's something to be aware of and to be careful about, but I don't know how I got onto that, uh, where we were at to begin with that.
Doesn't matter. That's what you were supposed to do.
Why not?
Okay, so Jim has an update with us. Odysseus quote is from Fitzgerald, line 462. Is spelled regular weird, or EI weird, but the footnote says WIRD, noun, fate, or destiny.
Cool. Fitzgerald. I'll have to read that.
Interesting. Thanks, Jim.
I remember how we got onto that. We were talking about psychedelics and and like the tricksters of the 60s, who were a little too weird for the
Are
main.
you calling Timothy Leary a trickster?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. He would love it too.
and Janis Joplin, and you know, all the people, the Merry Pranksters, and yeah, Jefferson Airplane, and you know.
So you were talking about, so you're talking about like the, what is it, the 27 Club, like we've got Janis Joplin and
Jimi
oh
Hendrix, Jim
Thank you.
Morrison.
Yep.
Amy Winehouse is in that. Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain. Yeah. Yep. Anybody else can? I know there's more people in the 27 Club, and I know you people watching know who they are. So go ahead and tell us more. But yeah. So how do you think they fit into that?
Well, I believe that their inner flame was very, very powerful.
God damn right. Jesus
and,
Christ. Listen to that woman sing is enough to tell me.
Yeah.
Both Amy Winehouse, I was thinking Janis Joplin at first, but both of them, like seriously, comes from here.
Yeah. They were very much in touch with their weird, and they had no choice but to just let it burn, and they burn out quick. You know, they're just some people only have a limited amount of time, and they were, thankfully they did what they did in the time they had, you know, and maybe, you know,
they did.
Yeah, right, because they changed culture, they changed the world culture, and
Wait, so let's go back to Saturn return. Is Saturn return 27 years? Is it 27 or 29?
It's
Um,
it's like, yeah, it's yeah, 27, 31, I don't know,
What do you
somewhere.
do with astrology? If it, I ask my people who are watching for a lot of things,
Yeah.
but if anybody happens to know, because I feel like 20, I feel like it's
It
around. Oh,
might be on the early side,
you might be
but
29. Oh, thank you, Jessica. 27 to 30.
mm,
27 to 29 is in that range. 20. So, okay. So, yeah,
mhm,
27 is the beginning of Saturn return.
yeah.
29.5. Exact. Is that exactly 29 and a half? Interesting.
And 27, 2 plus 7 is 9, and 9 is,
The
back to the
physical
mag,
completion.
and then back to the number 3, this, the sacred 3, and the 3 Norns, 3 fates,
Three
and
fates, the three gorgons.
yep, the triangle. And so I don't know, it's pretty weird. I had an experience where I met somebody at a dance in San Francisco, and we had a really good dance. We were in the flow, like very much in the flow,
Uh-huh.
kind of surrendered to the energies of the cosmos, the wave, the spiral, all that. And we talked afterwards, and we're like, oh, we should hang out. And so we go to Golden Gate Park like a week later, and we're just sitting there having a picnic, and we realized in that moment at the same time that we had met each other before, back in the 60s. And we had met each other at a Janis Joplin concert, and in Golden Gate Park. And
You both realized this at the same time
yeah,
that you
we
had.
realized, yeah, and it wasn't like that thing where it's like one of us was lying kind of thing. It was like we were both absolutely mind blown that we both realized this at the same time, and it was confirmed. So in that conversation, we also realized that, that song by Janis, "Take Another Little Piece of My Heart, Baby. You know you got it if it makes you feel good." So
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
we realized that we were both a part of Janis. Like we had a piece of her in us. And 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 the weird thing is that later on that night I go to a party, right? And that friend is no longer there. This is a totally different group of people. And I'm telling my friend, I just had this crazy experience in this park. And she's looking at me like, and then she says, I'm
Guess what?
Janice.
What?
She said, I'm Janice too. She had the same realization years before that she was partly Janice. And never, she told like friends and stuff, but I didn't know that, and it was weird, it was. So I'm glad she existed, because
Because she brought forth a bunch of people who did amazing things,
mm,
right? Her energy. So I don't know how you feel about reincarnation, but I'm sort of I am one of those people of the school of thought that like a single person can get sort of broken up or disseminated or distributed, to as in like some of them could even go back to the
mm,
chaos soup. Some of them, some of that personality or that person or that soul gets sprinkled. Like,
yeah. It is the technical term, I believe. Yes.
I've been officially sprinkled amongst a bunch of people. So,
Mhm.
but um, I don't I don't know what it takes to have that sort of realization because I've never had that sort of realization that I am a reincarnation of anyone, but I have had incredibly strong, I don't know, hermit-esque moments of like,
Mm,
oh, like I am in this. I know this to be real. I know this to be fact. And so I
mhm.
completely understand how those moments can sort of be so solid with you, even though they might sound weird to somebody else, or use the dreaded word crazy, because you kind of have to be careful with who you talk to about this. But if two people who just met in this way and then also realize this thing at the same time, I mean, how far do you go to deny fate?
Yeah,
It
right.
almost seems like you're going further to deny weird, right?
Yeah. Well, that's people will go really far. They will go as far as murdering people, you know, to deny this stuff. You know, I mean, I'm thinking about all the truth speakers, all the truth tellers in the world that have been assassinated, and
Cut down.
all the witches in the history that have been burned at the stake or drowned, or just how much the truth has been oppressed. Um, it's we're seeing it with trans people right now. It's they're being oppressed, and they're weird, is being
They're too weird for
yeah.
those who to see. Oh, I mean, we know that they are being attacked because they're seen as a threat, right?
Mm.
Because why else, other than fear, would you fucking react this way? But what the fuck are you so goddamn afraid of? Like, what is it about trans people that scares you so much that you need to not only tamp them down, but target them as a threat so that other people go after them?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's
It's ugly.
I don't know.
It's ugly. It's closed-minded. It's
Yeah.
definitely anti weird.
Yeah, it's fear, it's fear of themselves. It's fear of their own um m- their own androgyny, their own feminine side, their own masculine side, whatever, it's their own experience, deep experience of gender, and afraid of their wholeness. It's their fear of their soul. It's their fear of letting go of the illusion that they've lived with, and
To hear the words, the fear of soul, the fear of their own
yeah,
soul, to
yeah,
go so far, because I don't think you're wrong, but to put it in those words, I mean, one, they would tell you that you're crazy for saying that, but I fully see it as a realization and a real thing that they would never allow themselves to accept as a part of them.
mm-hmm.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Because really, at one level, we are all one. We are each other, right? So, and that is soul, right? This thing that connects everybody. And my happiness is directly correlated with your happiness, and
It's
all of
true.
us. And so, yeah, to oppress anybody is to oppress oneself, and it's just so much suffering. And it's insanity, really. I mean, it really is. Like, the world is going insane on some levels. Not everywhere, not everybody, of course, but this
But
this
to see the
force.
levels that it is going insane, to actually
Yeah.
see what people are actually saying out there in the world and the way that they are presenting themselves, this like bullying fashion where
Mm,
they are just taking people down to rise up, right? So that they
yeah.
themselves can rise up on the backs of the fucking lowest common denominator people who agree with them, because they are also ignoring their own weird. They're also ignoring their own current. They're also ignoring their own selves. And because they're like, well, we should all be doing this. And if you're not, then there's something wrong with you, because they
Mm,
seem to think that true happiness is some sort of fucking curse. I don't know. We have some comments that I want to get to real quick. So Jessica, this is from a little while ago. Jessica says, I'm a little Elvis. Even met him in passing. He was going out and I was coming in.
Awesome.
I happen to know that I only know this because he died on the day after my 7th birthday. So August 16th, 79, I think is correct. Or my 6th birthday, 78. I don't know, but interesting. So Jessica, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a little Elvis. I love it. Now I'm just picturing you as like a little Elvis. It's fear. Okay, so yeah, so oh wait, all right. I'm skipping ahead. Hold on. So Jim says Christian bigotry and the inability to fit transgendered folks into their narrow cosmology. They don't fit into our man and women nuclear family thing. They don't fit into what we see as what is acceptable for people, right? Oh God, I know. I know that I started it with the politics in the beginning, that I just can't let it go.
No,
They're gonna fucking start some shit. I feel like I need to say some shit too. It's fear, and they need another or boogeyman, so they have no okay. What does that make sense? It's fear. I've had a few whiskeys now. I might need some help translating.
They need a boogeyman, and they have no empathy.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's like we to say them and us and we, that's creating a separation just in and of itself. And we're all one. And
we are, regardless of, and yeah, we all. You go.
No, it's intense. It brings up a lot for sure. But I was just gonna say that this fragmentation that's happening, where it's not just the Christian bigots, it's bigots all over the world, right? Or it's fundamentalists all over the world. It's not. There are a lot of really compassionate Christians, right, and beautiful Christians that have the same values, that Jesus did, or so, but and at the same, so it's fear, right, and fear can show up in anybody, and we pagans can be guilty of oppressing people as well. It's as we know with some Norse communities, actually. So
I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about that, but that's a thing. That's sure. A real thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's I've my rant today. I had one of those a long time ago about the whole Asatru folk assembly when I discovered who they were, because I didn't know.
Yeah. But. Yeah. I mean, them like these people that are kind of there's an illusion, right? There's this illusion that you are different than me and that I am better than you, or that there's something wrong with you and something
that I need to separate myself from you. You need to be nowhere near me.
Yeah. It's just that is the delusion that creates fragmentation. So it pits people against other people, and it fragments the web of life. It fragments the web of weird. And that is what leads to Ragnarok, when we're all so fragmented from each other that we just self-immolate and we kill each other off. And so, but it's not, doesn't mean that's going to happen. It looks like it may, but we can always remember that we are all connected, and that we all we can all fight for each other. We can and fight in wise ways, and where we're not perpetuating fragmentation through our fighting. It's really difficult to do that.
Yes, but it's the way. It is the way.
Yeah.
I did not I did not get to the thing on fragmentation, which I was really bummed about, but I knew that I wanted to, because I knew that fragmentation leads to then coming back together, right?
Yeah. Fragmentation is kind of the opposite of that is integration.
That's
So
it.
yeah,
That's the one.
yep. And the fragmentation is what we're witnessing with, climate change.
I think someone might be home, and so
Mhm.
dogs are figuring out.
And
Okay, go ahead. Say what you're saying.
so, I mean, this is just one of those topics that I kind of I get overwhelmed with when I think about, because it's such a big problem. But I do think that there are ways to remember that we're all connected, and therapy is a great way. If the gods in the Norse mythology, like if they had therapists, Ragnarok may not have happened. It's if they had conflict mediators, if they had like some elders that would like, well, hold on now, let's talk this out, let's really look at this problem, then so there, yeah, I don't think we're all, I don't think it's as bad. it, I don't know what's going to happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna take the therapy thing that you said. I'm gonna take that as a springboard to. Okay. I I personally believe that everyone could benefit from having a therapist. I think that everybody could benefit from having just somebody that they could talk to, that has nothing to do with their own life, that is somebody they could vent to, that has, there's no repercussion from talking to this person and telling them everything that you feel, and just having a sounding board with an education. Right? Like somebody who can help you figure shit out.
And a connection with another human.
I went through, I was lucky enough to have therapy when I was like 19. And it was like maybe a year or two. I don't remember, but it was a long enough time that it affected me in such a way that I still know my therapist. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he was a most amazing person in my life. That literally 10 years after therapy, I still called him a couple of times. And I think it's very important. But this is just my preamble to, this is the hard part. How does someone go about finding a therapist that they can feel comfortable with? That's a big question, I know.
Yeah. No,
but
I mean,
maybe just like some general,
yeah,
at least lead them to the streams.
There are practical ways to do that. One is to look up. There's a page called Psychology Today.
That's the one I've heard is amazing. My daughter found 2 therapists on there that she liked the first one, but then there were issues with insurance. But like the second one, she's still with and still loves. So yes, that makes me feel so good. Okay.
And I will say that it's pretty it's not uncommon to have to shop around for a therapist, to meet with like a few therapists for maybe one session or maybe even 3 sessions, and say, not a good fit. And then to find just don't give up. Don't give up on your search. I think
Right.
that's it.
This might be a big question, but like, okay, so I tend to be a people pleaser, right? Which is not a good thing, but like, so I have hard time saying no to people. I have a hard time cutting off stuff. Like, what would be, this might be too broad, but maybe you can help. What would be signs of a person being a good or a beneficial or maybe a not a good fit therapist?
Yeah. A lot of it goes on the feel. And so if you meet it's just like meeting a stranger that, I don't know, maybe you start up a conversation and it just feels like, oh, it feels good, feels
Feels
safe.
like I can keep talking to you.
Yeah. And a feeling of safety may not feel totally safe because it's a stranger and because you're in a new place and you're in a place where you're revealing stuff about your internal world, so you may feel anxious. So safety, safe enough, I should say. If you feel safe enough, that's great. If you just like the person, if they have a good vibe, that's I think there's been enough literature that and kind of studies into what is it about therapy that heals people.
Really?
Yeah, and more important than like the technique, like CBT or DBT or Gestalt or psychodynamic, more important than any of those is that connection. It's the human to human connection. Like, you don't have to be best friends or anything like that. It's just that you feel comfortable enough with them, and you may like them even. It's
That you
that's
feel
the
safe
healing.
enough with them.
Yeah, that's what's healing. It's the human connection, and having an ear and a heart that will see you and hear and listen to you and be there side by side, because your therapist is not going to fix you. That's kind of the thing is, yeah, you got to fix yourself,
Right.
and the therapist will help you do that. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I think therapy is becoming more and more popular since COVID-19,
Oh.
and even before that with Trump, and just the, the fragment
Zing.
the fragmentation has been happening a while, right? With the climate and with the just politics and all that. So the more the fragmentation happens, the more mental illness there is, and so the more need for therapists, and the more just like awareness about therapy, just like, oh, therapy's an option, I could do that. So yeah,
Therapy
shopping
is an
around.
option that you can shop for. You don't have to
Yeah,
take the
yeah,
first one that comes to you.
yeah.
So Betty has a thing. I'd like to click on this real quick. Betty says, my daughter had a therapist when in high school that worsened her anxiety. When she tried to talk about liking girls, the therapist led her in other directions, but insurance would pay to change the wait. But insurance would pay to change therapists. I believe the right one can help, but the wrong one can deepen wounds for sure.
Mhm,
Lots and lots of therapy needed because of Trump.
mhm, yeah,
What's going on? Like between
yeah,
COVID and Trump, we need so much therapy on.
mhm.
I feel like with also with the checks they sent, they should have sent therapy stipends or coupons or something.
Yeah, therapy should be more accessible, definitely,
Therapy should
and
be
it
more
should be
accessible.
cheaper, and it should be subsidized by the government, and all that, because it is inaccessible for a lot of communities. It's there's systemic issues in the therapy world. But on the other note, yeah, I know friends who have had bad therapists and have been traumatized by their experience in therapy. And even though I'm a therapist and they like me and trust me, they're like, I'm never going to go see another therapist because that experience was so bad. And that makes me really sad. And I just know not all therapists are good therapists, you know, and because
In
there's,
every job, in every
yeah,
job, there's a spectrum of like, good to
yeah,
bad of how good
yeah,
you are at your job. That's just normal.
hmm,
Just sucks that therapy
yeah,
is in with that. Also politicians.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Therapy is kind of gets it's been infected. Maybe that's not the best word. It's been affected by the medical model and by the psychopharmacology, big pharma and all that. And
Mhm.
therapy used to be a place for soul exploration. Psyche is soul, and so psychotherapy is really the therapy of soul for soul.
Mhm.
And it used to be that way when it was kind of started. and then more, as time passed on, it became more medicalized and it became more evidence based. And not to talk trash about CBT because it is super helpful, but it doesn't necessarily get to the depths of trauma.
And when you say that, you're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
Or,
Thanks for clarifying that. And it's
sometimes that can be helpful if it's just sort of a replaying thing. But so say the statement again. You think it's sometimes not so effective?
Yeah, it's like it's a great tool that a therapist can have in their toolkit to bring out now and then, but or it's good for a temporary therapy. But CBT doesn't really get into the depths of the psyche. It doesn't get into, because like good therapy often takes a while. It can take, it can take a week to years. There's really no way that
Did you say
therapy.
it could take a week?
It could.
2 years.
It could take a week to
2 years makes sense. The week is
30 years.
Little positive thinking, for sure.
I'm not saying that it's a week.
Ash McKernan, a week. Call Ash McKernan. He knows what he's doing.
No. It's like it's a week, and then you maybe address one issue, and then maybe you come back, a week later.
Sure.
But yeah, there's the first therapists. Well, not the first, but there's a really interesting book called it's called Mad in America, and it's about kind of the history of therapy. And they it's not just in America, because they go to England and they talk about how the first therapists were the Quakers. And what they did was, it's like, I don't know, 1700s or something. And the Quakers would invite people that were having psychotic episodes and stuff and just were in bad shape. And they would just sit and listen. That was their thing, just listen. And that was healing people.
Fucking therapy is fucking priceless.
Yeah. And that, the medical doctors at the time, who were kind of also learning how to do therapy, were really threatened by that. And so they created Thorazine and these chemicals that would do it faster.
What does Thorazine do exactly? I'm not familiar with what that actually does. It's a downer, right?
It turns you into a zombie pretty much.
Oh, that's what therapy does. So it's the quick. How is that the quickness?
Well, it makes the patient more manageable. Otherwise they're like acting, and you give them a shot of Thorazine and then, and so to them they're like, that's the cure. And you could do that in a second, rather than the Quakers who are actually healing people. It would take time, and the pharma was then monetized, and it became the business, and it went in a whole different direction. That's still around. That's actually getting bigger today, with big pharma. It's
amazing what money can do.
Yeah, it's amazing what fear can do, and what
so good. It's amazing what fear can do. That is fucking dead on, friend.
It's scary. It's scary what fear can do.
I'm afraid of what fear can do.
Yeah.
I really am. So like fear is what caused, the witch hunts, and fear is what causes so many of our problems. Fear is why Trump is even a fucking option.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck. So yeah, fear is bad, okay?
Yeah. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down on fear. But spoiler alert, fear is what so many fucking things are based in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a problem with anything? Do you have a problem with other people? Do you have a problem with things? Do you have a problem with it's always based in fucking fear.
Mm-hmm.
this is
Yeah.
fear and shame. This is a whole other show. We're going to get into a whole other 3 hours on fear and shame. People, you ready?
Yeah, throw in guilt. Let's add another hour. That's like
Let's get Brene Brown on the phone. Somebody call her
Yeah.
because we need to get in some like expert people here.
Yeah. Yeah, the existential therapists of like I don't know when they were around, like in the 1950s and 60s, they kind of viewed all mental illness as being the result of the fear of death and also the fear of responsibility, because as you heal and as
You
you
have to be a real person in society.
yeah, you have to take the hard way, the difficult path, rather than give someone Thorazine. You have to talk to them, and you have to admit your own stuff. You have to do the shadow work, and that's a whole nother episode too.
It's like, no. We talk a lot about shadow work on this show. It's a common theme.
It is, and the shadow is terrifying. And
it's in every shadow is so part of the weird in a way, because you have to acknowledge all of the weird, as you have to acknowledge all of yourself, which includes the shadow.
Yeah, and the fear.
I don't know how that part of it works. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. It doesn't matter. But also, I don't like you for doing this weird thing. And that's how the shadow presents itself. I don't want to talk about it, but also I don't like this.
Yeah. And it's usually like, I don't want to see that in myself. So I'm going to project it onto you and say that you are bad for doing that thing, when it's really internal. It's really, it's a trick. We live in a trickster universe. I really do think this, And
I had this whole conversation. Okay, if my daughter watches this, if my daughter actually watches this 2.5 hours into the show, I'll be amazed, because I don't think she watches my shows. Nobody I know actually watches my shows. Just kidding. But her and I were literally having this conversation the other morning, where she was telling me, I don't know how familiar you are with Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Verse, but I'm
not super familiar.
It's an animated thing, but in this, there are all of the different Spider-Man incarnations that are throughout all of creation, right? So like all of the weird Spider-Man things that have ever happened, they all come together to help Miles Morales deal with his Spider-Man-ish issues, right? And some of it's really amazing. There's actually like Spider-Man Noir, who is actually played by Nick Cage, which is amazing. There's
cool.
there's Peter Porker, who's played by John Mulaney. Again, it's animated.
It's brilliant.
It's so good. But she was telling me how much she doesn't like specifically Gwen in her, because in some Spider-Verse, Spider Universe, Gwen Stacy becomes Spider-Man, Spider Woman. And she's like, I don't like her for these reasons. And I'm like, well, that's weird, because that sounds exactly like you. She's like, what? What? And I'm like, well, let me tell you about Shadow, because she's already heard me talk about it. But I'm like, that when someone really bugs you, probably there's a reason that you don't like about yourself. Like if they really irritate you, like start where, if you're looking to do shadow work, start with what pisses you off. Like you can then figure out like, oh, that's part of what pisses me off about me. She did not like this conversation, but but no. She's overconfident. I'm like, so you don't like that about yourself? Because I think that's great about you. She's like, that's not about me. I'm like, I think it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, cool thing about the shadow too is that it's not only that place where we store the things we don't want to see, but there's like our magic and our potential is also hidden in our shadow. So as we do our shadow work, we gain access to our full potential.
Because it's
And
our whole self.
yeah, our wholeness. And it's magic, right? Shadow work is magic. And I'm imagining these lawmakers, in Florida and Tennessee, if they were to do their shadow work, that not only would they see their own self in the trans folk that they're oppressing, they would see their own power to heal and change. Like
And be their true selves.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, makes me think about there's a story about Grace Slick, who's the singer of Jefferson Airplane. In the 60s or 70s, she was invited to the White House. Well, it was someone in her family was invited to the White House, and she was a guest. And so she had a plan to bring a bunch of LSD into the White House and put it in the punch bowl, at the big party where Nixon was, and all these people. But she got stopped at the door because one of the security guards is like, "I know you. You're not. You're not
You're
allowed."
a problem.
Yeah, but imagine what could have happened, or imagine if some of these lawmakers today do, like, kind of unknowingly get into psychedelic therapy, not knowing what it's going to do, but then have like realizations. Mushrooms could save the world. There's a lot of people that are saying that, like, not only psychedelic mushrooms, but medicinal mushrooms too, and mushrooms that can heal the environment. Like that movie, Fantastic Fungi or Fungi, is
So
really
good.
inspiring, really hope inspiring.
It is. If you actually watch it, but I almost feel like, and I hate to say this part, but if you watch it and believe it, but I almost feel like so many people would be like, oh, that's just their opinion. Actually, it's fucking science. Like,
Yeah.
and it's sad because I feel like the fucking answer is right there. I feel like it's within their grasp. But then we've got motherfuckers like DeSantis actually saying that woke is bad when they actually realize what woke actually means, and they're like, no, we actually want to go against that.
Mm.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Slayer said it well. Humanity going insane. No.
I wish I could play that. I wish I had the editing capabilities to be like, cue that. Oh, it's insane. Yeah, like I wish I could do that right now, but I can't. But that would be a fantastic ender to this, which I feel like we should end it because it's already a little after 11 and it's late. But this has been seriously motherfucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you.
I know
it's really nice.
It started a little bumpy in the beginning.
Did it?
Well, I feel like my intro was a little bumpy.
No, not at all.
I get so panicky when I turn on the camera that I'm like,
I felt that way too. So I get you. I get it. You didn't come off that way at all. But yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But next time you're in town, or whenever we have the chance to like connect again, I would fucking love that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be back through in let's see, early May, late April, early May, because I'm going to be going to Wisteria for their Beltane festival.
So my good friend used to be the fire tender at Wisteria. Oh my God, yes. Please let's.
I'll stop in. I'll definitely.
No. We need to plan something. We need to plan a thing. We need to plan a class or a something or an event with you coming through. I mean, if it's not too much, because I don't want to put that on.
Oh no, I would love to. Let's do a workshop.
Oh, please, let's do a workshop.
Yeah.
You can come and sit inside the iron tilted black witches cauldron that we will somehow work out the name for. I promise.
I like Tilted. I like that addition. Tilted.
We talked about that while you were frozen, because she said, Betty said tilted cauldron, which one sounds like tilted kilt, but also sounds like a carnival ride to me. The tilted cauldrons.
Oh, that's cool.
You make that happen. But yes, please come through, come hang out with us. We can make a whole event out of it because I have an event space.
Awesome. Well, I'll be thinking about something. Yeah, see what I'll stir the cauldron here and see what comes up. And thank you so much. You know, it's really nice talking and chatting and exploring weird with you. Like it's a beautiful thing to.
I love to explore the weird. Before you leave, tell people how they can contact you if you want them to contact you. You might just want to live your life in Maine without anyone. Don't contact me.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. But no, seriously, like I don't know. Do your promo stuff.
So yeah, I have a Instagram. It's at Weird Wild Web, WYRD, and then just Wild Web, all lowercase, Weird Wild Web. And then I have a webpage, www.weirdwildweb.com. And I think my Facebook is just Ash McKernan. So yeah, definitely reach out, say hi, you know, and I hope to see some of you, all of you at some point in the future at some event or at some gathering. Maybe we can dance together around the fire and get weird together, you know. Yeah.
Love that you found a laser tent. I still love that you found a laser tent. People dancing. All right. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Ash, you just hold on for a minute. And I hope you all, I love you. I love you all. Thank you for watching. This was a long show and it was fucking amazing. Thank you for holding on. And I'll see you in the next show. I don't even know what that is yet, but it'll be good. Bye. Where's I need to get my mouse to get up here. Yep, that's the one.